Drywall patching is a common DIY project, but even experienced homeowners can make mistakes. This video reveals the secrets to patching drywall like a pro, providing easy to follow tips and tricks for beginners to achieve professional looking results. Sometimes you have to make holes in drywall for an upgrade. So in this case, I have to do that for an old toilet paper holder that my client asked me to remove and replace. So I'm scoring the perimeter using a utility knife. If there's any sealant around that, like silicone, it's best to score it so that when you take it out with a hammer like I'm doing here, you're not going to make a bigger hole than what you need. Obviously, I'm left with a big hole, but here's a big drywall tip to make this so much easier to patch. I take a piece of drywall that's about 2 inches bigger on all sides, and what I do is I score the back of that and remove the drywall portion to leave a 2-inch paper outline that I can then cover the perimeter of the hole. I carefully remove that piece of drywall without tearing the paper, and what I have here is a big patch that'll work perfectly for the hole that's inside the wall. Unfortunately, owning rentals for over 20 years has taught me one thing, and that is if something can be destroyed, it will be destroyed. So I highly recommend putting wood blocking behind this repair or anything that's similar to it. That way, whenever you add your drywall repair, it's going to be pretty darn solid. When I add these screws in place, I just make sure that they're dimpled and slightly below the paper around the repair that I'm making. I had 2 pieces of blocking on the top and the bottom. Ideally, if you're going to be adding the new toilet paper holder, it would anchor into these pieces of wood. To make this patch strong, I do 2 things. The first one is to push the new patch into the wall and add 2 screws at the top and the bottom. If you're wondering, I'm simply using 1 5/8 inch coarse threaded drywall screws because I'm working with wood here. And I make sure that they're slightly dimpled so that it doesn't interfere with the next step. Before I mention the second thing I do to make this strong, I want to also tell you about the tools I'm using. I'm using level 5 drywall tools because they work great. If you have to make multiple drywall repairs, these are fantastic. So I'm applying joint compound between the old wall and the 2-inch flap of paper. And the reason why I do that is I smooth it out, and this is going to create a nice strong patch. By the way, the reason why this is going to be strong and it's going to be fast, more on that in a moment, is because I'm using setting type joint compound. The key here and the secret is to make sure that that paper, the purple paper, is flat up against the old drywall. That's going to make your patch look professional in the end. I take a lot of time to make this look as flat as possible, and then I fill in that slight depression. Remember, I mentioned that I want this to be slightly depressed so that when I use the 6-inch, or in this case I'm using a 10-inch knife, that will look so much better. It'll actually make it easier for me to fill in with the joint compound. I do multiple passes here. The 10-inch knife helps me smooth out the new patch with the old wall, and I let that set up for about an hour and a half. By the way, the biggest problem with drywall patches is the joint compound. That's why I use Easy Sand 45. Even though it says Easy Sand 45, it does take about an hour and a half to cure. So I set a timer for an hour and a half, and then that makes it easy to come back and sand it down smooth. I do like Easy Sand 45 because it's a very quick patch, and then I use a 12-inch joint compound knife to apply my final coat. In some cases, I will do a 3rd or 4th coat if I want this to be super smooth, but usually after that 3rd coat, I'm good to go. So you need a 10-inch, a 12-inch, and a 6-inch knife for this. One of the biggest mistakes folks make is not priming the new drywall patch. I'm using KILZ 2 with Purdy White Dove rollers. I've been using these for over 20 years, and the reason why is they just simply work. KILZ 2 is absolutely needed to prime the patch so that you can add a top coat and it won't peel off the wall. The way I apply the KILZ 2 is pretty simple. I roll it on, and then I go back over it by 1/2 length of the roller. And this will give me a nice solid primed wall such that you won't be able to see the patch in the end. You can see here it blends in nicely with the old drywall. Normally the KILZ 2 will cure in a few hours, and then I can add my top coat. And if you're really fast, you can do this entire project in 1 day and make it look pretty darn awesome. So those are some secrets for patching drywall. I hope these tips help you out. If they did, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.